became a career firefighter with the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Service, the chief of the medical division, or EMS, the unofficial historian of the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services. Over 65,000 digital images and newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. Episode 25-11, 96 years ago, 1929. The Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department, 1929, by George Massey, that is. The Howard County Fire Department logbook and select official fire department reports. In 1929, this was the fire station that was in use at 8316 Main Street after it had been remodeled and put in service. The second floor was the residence of B.H. Shipley Sr. and his wife, as well as their son, Harrison Shipley. To the right of this station is what used to be Talbot Lumber Company. It's now a brewing company and restaurant. This is an image of Engine 3, an American LaFrance engine of significance. This will be referenced multiple times when we review the fire reports. Each of the fire reports will indicate which engine responded to those particular calls. In this image, we have left to right Charles Buck Ditch, who actually was the father of Beverly Ditch, and it was Buck Ditch who was one of the two fatalities in the 1953 chimney collapse on Christmas Eve. Next to him is B.H. Shipley Sr., and then Ed Hilton, and then finally William Martin. Just some additional information on Engine 3, an American LaFrance engine. It was a chemical engine. In fact, when you see pictures of it, just behind the officer and driver's seat, you can see the chemical tank that was used. Apparently the unit cost $6,000 back in the day, and it was in service from January 25th, 1928 until July 11th of 1951. Again, just additional information about the Engine 3. This is from the Fireman's Carnival brochure, just showing the chemical engine from a different point of view. In this particular picture, left to right is Albert Greenwood, John Lyons, and B.H. Shipley Sr., Engine 3. This is just an image of the two primary fire engines back in the day. Left to right is Engine 1, is all the way to the rear, and Engine 3 is the engine closest to the camera, and the personnel in their dress blue lined up for a formal picture. Just additional information about the previous image showing the two engines, engine number 1 and engine number 3. Engine number 1 is the one with the three firefighters on the back step, and engine number 3 is with the two firefighters on the back step. January 20th, 1929, house fire. This is the formal report of the fire activity, nothing like the reports that we see nowadays in the modern fire service. In 1929, there were 102 fire calls that the Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department ran. I've selected just a few for various reasons. This one on January 30th, 1929, house fire on School Street in Ellicott City. Units left at 6:15 p.m. and were back at 7:02 p.m. School Street was just off of Court Avenue. School Street at this particular time also housed the four-room grammar school back in 1889, and then in 1902 it became Howard County's first public high school when additional rooms were added to the grammar school. And this would have been just to the rear of the new Main Street station at Main Street and Fells Lane. February 2nd, 1929, house fire in Jonestown, a relatively straightforward incident. However, of note, back in the day when they referenced these incidents, apparently it made some sort of difference to identify the homeowner or home occupant and or the individual if they were a minority in this situation. They emphasized that the individual was colored. Throw back in history. February 26, 1929, house fire, Elk Ridge area. Pretty significant house fire apparently. Of note is that the Catonsville and Halethorpe stations sent pumpers to this particular incident in Elk Ridge. March 7th, 1929, just a barn, tenant house, and corn crib fire in Clarksville. Units left at 8 p.m. and got back at 10:30 p.m. Single unit response. March 17th, 1929, a house fire in the Jessup area, and apparently the Glen Burnie station and the Halethorpe station also responded to provide assistance with this incident. March 20th, 1929, building fire, vacant building fire in Ellicott City. Of note on this particular call, and the notes reflected, comments reflected, Albert Greenwood used the first smoke mask to a good advantage, and also Wayne Glover injured his left knee while on the roof. May 7th of 1929 at 9 p.m. a brooder house caught on fire and was destroyed, and 250 baby chicks were also destroyed in this particular fire. May 11th, 1929. May 11th, 1929 at 10:44 a.m. Units responded to a report of a gymnasium fire. Units were on the scene until approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This incident was located in the Ilchester area of Howard County at the Donaldson School. And this particular fire left the building and contents completely destroyed. I wasn't sure where the Donaldson School was. Came across an advertisement that highlighted the Donaldson School for Boys located in Ilchester. This actually became the Trinity Preparatory School in the Ilchester Road area of Howard County. This is just giving a brief history of that particular property. You can see that changed names and different types of education were provided. It eventually did become the Donaldson School for Boys. However, that also soon changed and eventually became what we know as today as the Trinity Preparatory School. May 16th, 1929, house fire down in North Laurel, and A unit responded from the Main Street station in Ellicott City at 11:30 a.m. and returned at 2 p.m. to this particular fire. Of note was that the Laurel Fire Department was present at the fire with their new pumper. May 23rd, 1929. This is somewhat interesting. Came in as an auto or gas truck on fire, and apparently units responded into the city, 413 Poplar Grove Street in Baltimore. Of note also, as the unit responded, they had some trouble, mechanical trouble, slight engine trouble on the way to the fire, and it was determined to be the magneto was the source of the trouble as they responded. June 2nd, 1929, a rescue occurred of a boy in a well at the residence of Clarence Yates in Ellicott City. Apparently, the boy fell into a well due to an insecure covering of the well covering. The boy was not seriously injured, but the well had been 62 feet deep, and units responded and were able to remove the patient, the victim, from the well. June 8th, 1929, yet again, a fire at the Donaldson School. Apparently, a bed was completely destroyed at this particular incident. Both Engine 1 and Engine 3 responded to the scene of this incident. Call came in at 12:15 a.m. and units returned at 1:20 a.m. June 15th, 1929, a chicken house caught on fire. This was at the location of the St. Charles College on Frederick Road near Manor Lane. June 15th, 1929, a barn fire somewhere in Howard County at 1:20 a.m. Units returned at 5:15 a.m. Units 2 and 3 responded. Engines 2 and 3 responded. Ended up with a barn and 30 tons of hay, and looks like 13 sheep perished in this particular blaze. June 21st, 1929, barn fire where a barn, a thrasher were destroyed, as well as 1 ton of baled hay. June 21st, 1929, 12 p.m. to 2 a.m., a barrack caught on fire, basically a barn, and 30 tons of hay were lost in this particular blaze. July 15th, 1929, house fire in the Jessup area. Units responded at 9 p.m. and returned a little after 10 p.m. And of note on this particular incident were both the Linthicum Heights and the Glen Burnie fire stations, as well as Camp Meade, responded to the scene with their equipment. July 19th, 1929, a lumber mill fire
in Clarksville area. Units responded at 11 a.m. and returned at 3 p.m. Single engine response, engine number 3 with 2 personnel. August 14th, 1929, house and barn and contents caught on fire in the Glenwood, Maryland area. Of note, as the personnel investigated the fire a little bit later on, that the fire started at 10:30 a.m. Owner thought he had put it out, but then 2 hours later found that the structure was on fire, and the entire structure basically was lost in this particular fire situation. August 20th, 1929, units responded at 12:30 in the afternoon and returned at 2:30 in the afternoon. It was a field fire at Franciscan Fathers off of Folly Quarter Road. August 27th, 1929, a barn and its contents were lost in a fire in the Marysville area of Howard County. Of note was that a William Matton, a colored employee, was sent to the hospital with an injury after he was kicked by a horse at the scene of the incident. September 3rd, 1929, 12 noon to 12:30 in the afternoon. Structure fire. Of note is that it was at the residence of, or the property of, Roy Stern in Rockland, and that may be very well the relative of one of the Ellicott City fire service people from back in the day. December 27th, 1929, at 8 p.m., with units responding, then eventually returning at 2 a.m., that's 6 hours later. House fire, laundry, back again at the Donaldson School. And apparently there was significant fire loss on this particular incident. Engines 1 and 3 responded to this call. Of note, just a reference to the Donaldson School in Ilchester. In 1929, one of the students, a swimmer, was killed when he dove into the pool that had been partially drained. The pool water was substantially lower. When he dove in, he struck his head on the concrete bottom and was deceased by the time doctor and coroner arrived on the scene. Just a narrative of the Donaldson School fire from December 27th, 1929. Two-story frame structure at Donaldson burns during the night.
Please use your remaining heartbeats wisely and not waste a single precious one.